Good morning, students. Today we will discuss the last part of the chapter New Rules and Rulers. So, in our previous video, we have already discussed about the major political development in 700 CE to 1200 CE, causes of tripartite struggle, who were Rajput and Ghaznavids, why did Chola Empire become famous in history, and in this video we will discuss new kingdoms, important features and Turkish invasion in India. Students, let's discuss the important features of new kingdoms. The important features are the rise of the warrior chiefs and warlords, practice of land grants, and wars of resources. So, students, let's first discuss the rise of warrior chiefs. First of all, who were warrior chiefs? Warrior chiefs commanded a band of soldiers. They gave military support to kings and they were often called as subordinate rulers. Whose subordinate rulers? Kings' subordinate rulers. Okay, so now they are samantras or feudatory rulers. They were also called as samantas or feudatory rulers. So, where the problem arises? When the king gave power to the war chiefs, what happened after some time? They gained power and they declared themselves to be as Mahasamanta. One of the example is Rashtrakuta dynasty. So students, now let's discuss about Danti Durga. So what Danti Durga did? Before becoming the king of Rashtrakuta Empire, Danti Durga was the warrior chief of Cholakya. So what he did, when he got the power, he overthrown his overlord. Overlord was Cholakya. He overthrown his overlord and became the king. He took the whole empire under his control and he performed the ritual Hiranya Garbha. And why he performed the ritual? Because he was a Brahman and he wanted to change his caste from Brahman to Kshatriya. And a very important thing is that it is not compulsory to change your caste from Brahman to Kshatriya. Even the other caste person can also become the king. So now let's discuss the practice of land grants. So students, now let's understand the practice of land grants. The king gave power to Samantas to collect taxes. Samantas collect rent from peasants and artisans. And what was the method of collecting the rent? The peasants used to surrender a part of their produce as a rent to the Samantas who used to control all local lands. Now the king shared power with nobles by granting land grants, and Samantas collect taxes from the direct producers and they used to maintain their household and armies with these resources, and they give a part of previously fixed amount to king as a regular tribute, and the detail of such grants are recorded in the inscriptions. And who will record these? The person who is getting these grants, means the receiver will record all these details. And mostly the Brahmins or special royal officers get these rewards. The wars for resources. We have already read in our previous class that taxes imposed by the rulers on their subject, and these taxes were important source of revenue. Civilians and officials were paid through these taxes, and it was also used for the maintenance of palaces, construction of temple, etc. Now, the other important source of revenue was plunder. The most important reason of warfare between various kingdoms was their attempt to gain resources beyond their own territory. We have seen the Kannauj tripartite struggle. Kannauj in North India was a very favorite area of three large dynasties because of its various resources. We have also seen that the temples are the symbols of the power and generosity. Temples were not only the houses of worship but often had great wealth and prestige attached to them. Now let's understand the Turkish invasion on India. Muhammad of Ghazni. In the 11th century, Muhammad Ghazni invaded northern India. If we talk about his invasions, he invaded India 17 times between 1000 and 1027 CE. If we talk about his invasions, he was not having any interest in building an empire in India. He was only interested in collecting the resources for the struggle against his enemies in Central Asia. So, in most of his invasions, he only plundered the rich temples and cities in northern India. And the another important reason for his raids was to reduce the import of horses and Arab traders and encourage the horse traders of Ghazni to replace them. Have a look at the invasions of Muhammad Ghazni. In AD 1001, he attacked Punjab, Ujjain, Gwalior, Kalinga, Kannauj, and Delhi. He also attacked and raided rich cities and towns like Nagakot, Multan, Alwar, Thanishwar, Mathura, and Somnath. Now, because of Muhammad Ghazni's raids, Turks now knew how to cross the chain of mountain defending India from the northwest. But after the death of Muhammad, his empire collapsed, and after 150 years, Turkish invaded India again under the leadership of Muhammad Ghori. Now, who was Muhammad Ghori? Muhammad Ghori was the ruler of Ghur in Central Asia. He conquered Multan and Uch in the Punjab and wanted to conquer the whole of North India. As Muhammad Ghori was moving towards Punjab, he met Prithviraj Chauhan. Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Ghori in the first battle of Taran in 1191 CE. But in 1192 CE, Ghori defeated Prithviraj Chauhan in the same battlefield. And that was the foundation of the first Turkish dynasty and the beginning of Sultanate period. Now let's understand why the Turks succeeded. The Turks succeeded because of their superior military technology, Indians' internal conflicts, and Indians' lack of unified command. So, if we talk about the military superiority, the Turks used iron strips on their horses that allowed their cavalrymen to move faster. So, what is iron strips? A pair of rings hung from either side of a horse saddle to support the rider's foot in mounting and riding. You can have a look in this picture. These are the iron stirrups. Okay, so now they use horses that move faster than Indian horses and elephants. And the other thing was that they used bows that could shoot arrows to a longer distance. The other reasons were the lack of unified command and internal conflicts. If we talk about Indian army mostly consisted of the Samantas who were not related to each other by blood. So they rarely put up a joint front during the battle. And if we talk about Turks, they had a tribal structure due to which they were a close-knit group. So students, now it's time for some brainstorming exercise. What do you understand by the word golden womb? Why Turks succeeded? Give two reasons. And who fought Battle of Tarin? So students, give me the answers of these questions in the comment box below. So students, be safe, be at your home. Thank you. Have a good day.